Hello, I'm Escher, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
An inquiry into Douglas Richard Hofstadter's 1979 work, Gödel, Escher, by an eternal golden braid, reveals a text operating on multiple, self-referential levels. It presents itself as a popular exposition of complex ideas from mathematics, art, and music, yet its core function is to advance a specific, unified thesis concerning the genesis of intelligent identity. The work's subtitle, An Eternal Golden Braid, suggests a structure where disparate strands of thought are woven into an inseparable, cohesive whole. This essay will undertake a direct, section-by-section evaluation of the internal claims and argumentative architecture of Hofstadter's monumental fugue of ideas. The purpose is to dissect the logic of its central analogy, which equates the self-referential loop found in Gödel's incompleteness theorems with the emergent phenomenon of human consciousness. We will assess the work's mechanisms, its use of evidence, and the coherence of its leap from formal systems to the subjective experience of the self. Section 1. The pedagogical foundation in formal systems. Hofstadter initiates his grand argument with the seemingly simple MU puzzle. The claim embedded within this introductory chapter is that the fundamental nature of intelligence and limitation can be understood by exploring the properties of a formal system. He presents a system comprising axioms, symbols and rules of inference, tasking the reader with producing a target string, mu, from the initial string, my. The explicit mechanism demonstrated is symbol manipulation devoid of inherent meaning. The deeper, implicit claim is that the distinction between operating within the system, applying its rules mechanically, and reasoning about the system from an external perspective is the foundational duality the book seeks to resolve. The puzzle's unsolvability, a fact discoverable only through meta-level reasoning about number properties invariant under the rules, serves as the initial experiential lesson. Hofstadter's methodology here is Socratic. He invites the reader into a state of frustrated play, compelling an intuitive grasp of concepts like theorems, axioms, and decision procedures. The evaluation of this section finds the claim to be brilliantly substantiated. The puzzle functions as a microcosm of the entire book's argument, demonstrating that properties of a whole system are available from a higher level of analysis, a perspective inaccessible to the system's internal operations. It establishes the conceptual vocabulary for the far more complex systems to follow, successfully framing deep mathematical logic as a tangible, almost physical, process of manipulation. Section 2. Isomorphism. As the engine of meaning, the work's second major movement introduces the concept of isomorphism as the source of meaning in otherwise meaningless symbolic structures. The central claim is that meaning emerges when a consistent mapping, an isomorphism, is discovered between the symbols of a formal system and the elements of another domain. Hofstadter presents his own formal system, typographical number theory, or TNT, as the primary vehicle for this claim. He details its rigorous, formalistic nature, where strings of symbols are manipulated according to precise typographical rules. The power of his argument comes from the simultaneous demonstration that these manipulations perfectly mirror the truths of natural number theory. A theorem in TNT, a string derived through approved rules, corresponds to a true statement about numbers, such as 2 + 2 = 4. The evidence provided is the painstaking construction of this correspondence. The dialogue form, particularly the Crab canon, serves as an artistic proof of this concept. Within this dialogue, the characters' statements and the overall narrative structure mirror the musical form of a Crab canon, where a melody is played against itself in reverse. The reader experiences the isomorphism directly, recognizing the pattern and thus deriving a layer of meaning that transcends the literal content of the conversation. The evaluation of this section's claim is that it is profoundly convincing within its domain. Hofstadter establishes that complex meaning can be encoded in and decoded from a system of empty symbols, Provided a key for interpretation exists, this prepares the ground for his ultimate argument about the brain that its neural firings, though syntactically driven, can encode the rich semantics of thought through a similar, albeit vastly more complex, isomorphism. Section 3. The universal architecture of recursion. Hofstadter then dedicates a substantial portion of the book to exploring recursion, claiming it as the fundamental mechanism for generating infinite complexity from finite sets of rules. This claim is advanced across all three of his chosen domains. In music, he analyzes the canons and fugues of Johann Sebastian Bach, presenting them as auditory manifestations of recursive procedures. A theme is introduced, then layered upon itself at different pitches and speeds, creating intricate tapestries of sound from a single, finite melodic idea. In art, the lithographs of M.C. Escher, such as print gallery and drawing hands, provide visual evidence. Print gallery depicts a town containing an art gallery in which a visitor is viewing a print of that same town, creating a visual loop that spirals inward. Drawing hands shows two hands, each in the act of drawing the other, a perfect visual metaphor for a self-referential, mutually generative process. The core mechanism is what Hofstadter terms a strange loop, a specific kind of tangled, hierarchical recursion where a system operating on one level finds itself, through a series of upward or downward shifts, unexpectedly back at its starting point. The evaluation of this claim is that Hofstadter successfully demonstrates the pervasiveness and power of recursion as a generative principle. His argument's strength lies in the accumulation of examples from disparate fields, suggesting a universal law of organization. The intellectual framework he builds connects the intuitive, aesthetic experience of a Bach fugue to the rigorous, formal definition of recursive functions in computer science. This section's argument is essential, for the strange loop he identifies in art and music becomes the exact architecture he will later ascribe to Gödel's proof and, ultimately, to consciousness itself. The argument invites the reader to accept that these recursive structures are identical in their deep mechanism, differing only in their medium of expression. Section 4. The Gödelian knot and incompleteness. The intellectual climax of the book's first half is its extended exegesis of Kurt Gödel's first incompleteness theorem. The central claim here is that Gödel discovered a strange loop embedded within the heart of formal mathematical logic. Hofstadter argues that any formal system of sufficient power to express arithmetic necessarily contains true statements that are unprovable within that system. The mechanism of this proof, as meticulously unpacked by Hofstadter, is the core of his entire thesis. He explains the process of Gödel numbering, or arithmetization, whereby every symbol and every formula of a formal system like TNT is assigned a unique natural number. This creates an isomorphism between statements about the system, which are metamathematical, and statements of ordinary number theory. The crucial step is the construction of a self-referential formula, the G-sentence, which, when translated through the Gödel numbering, asserts its own unprovability. The sentence effectively states, this statement of number theory does not have a proof in typographical number theory. Hofstadter masterfully leads the reader through the paradox. If the G-sentence were provable, it would be false, which would make the formal system inconsistent. Therefore, assuming the system is consistent, the G-sentence must be unprovable, and because it is unprovable, what it asserts is true. The existence of a true but unprovable statement demolishes the dream of a complete and consistent formalization of mathematics. In evaluating this section, Hofstadter's explication stands as a landmark of pedagogical clarity. His claim that Gödel's proof is a formal strange loop is entirely substantiated. The system of TNT, through the clever device of Gödel numbering, becomes capable of making statements about itself, looking inward and reporting on its own limitations. This section successfully transforms an abstruse result in mathematical logic into a tangible, almost narrative event, establishing the Gödelian loop as the formal, rigorous archetype for the phenomenon of self-awareness you will subsequently Section 5. The analogical leap to consciousness. The final and most ambitious part of Hofstadter's argument claims that human consciousness is itself a strange loop, an emergent epiphenomenon analogous to the self-referential structure in Gödel's proof. The eye of subjective experience, he posits, is a perceived, high-level coherence that arises from the massively parallel, low-level and non-intelligent processing of neurons in the brain. The brain's hardware, the neural substrate, functions as the formal system, processing signals according to fixed electrochemical rules. The I, the thinking self, is the emergent symbol that represents this entire complex system to itself, a symbol existing on a level of description far removed from individual neuron firings. The evidence for this claim is primarily analogical. Hofstadter introduces the Aunt Hilary thought experiment, an elaborate system composed of a vast colony of unintelligent ants that, through coordinated action, spell out intelligent responses to questions. The system, he argues, could be considered conscious on a holistic level. The central mechanism is the self-referential feedback loop, the brain's high-level symbolic representation of I can influence the low-level neural firings that produce it, just as a thought can trigger a cascade of further thoughts. In evaluating this claim, one must acknowledge its speculative nature. Hofstadter moves from the rigorous, demonstrable loop in DNT to a metaphorical loop in cognition. The isomorphism between the Gödelian paradox and the subjective feeling of selfhood is presented as a compelling analogy, a deep and beautiful one, but it remains an analogy. The methodology transitions from logical demonstration to philosophical persuasion. Contemporary critiques, for instance those emerging from the work of philosophers like John Searle, directly challenge this core analogy by proposing that syntactic manipulation, the symbol shunting of a formal system or a computer program, however complexly looped, remains insufficient for the generation of semantic understanding or genuine consciousness. Hofstadter's claim is powerful because it provides a potential mechanism for consciousness. It avoids a non-physical homunculus, grounding the self in the brain's computational architecture. Its ultimate validity rests on the degree to which one accepts the proposed isomorphism between a logical paradox and a biological phenomenon. Section 6. The synthesis of form and content. The final evaluation of Gödel, Escher, Bach must consider the work as a whole, assessing the claim made by its very structure. The book is an autological object. Its form is a demonstration of its content. It is structured as a fugue, with dialogues and chapters acting as voices that introduce, develop, and counterpoint the central themes of recursion, isomorphism, and strange loops. The dialogues featuring Achilles and the tortoise are recursively structured, with each dialogue's form and content often reflecting the ideas discussed in the subsequent chapter. For example, the contracrostopunctus dialogue is an acrostic that spells out Hofstadter's contracrostopunctus acrostically backwards spells JS, Bach, while also being a conversation about the music of Bach. This method of argumentation is holistic and aesthetic. The central claim is that the reader, by navigating the book's own tangled hierarchy of ideas, experiences something akin to the emergence of understanding that the book describes. One begins with simple rules and concepts and, through recursive exploration, arrives at a profound, unified insight. The evaluation is that this structural claim is fully realized. The work persuades as much through its artistic construction as through its linear, logical arguments. It functions as an intellectual experience designed to reconfigure the reader's own conceptual framework regarding the mind. It compels the reader to inhabit the very type of system it describes, making the thesis feel less like a proposition to be accepted and more like a conclusion reached through personal discovery. The book's architecture is the final, and perhaps most convincing, piece of evidence for its own thesis. In conclusion, Hofstadter's Gödel, Escher, While an eternal golden braid advances a profound and elegant claim about the nature of the self, grounding it in the formal properties of self-referential systems, its initial sections build a formidable case, moving with pedagogical brilliance from simple puzzles to the core isomorphism between number theory and formal logic, and then to the universal principle of recursion, the explication of Gödel's incompleteness theorem as a demonstrable strange loop, is the argumentative bedrock of the entire work. The subsequent leap, which equates this logical structure with the emergent phenomenon of consciousness, is a powerful act of philosophical analogy. While this final step lacks the formal proof of its mathematical precursors, its persuasive force is immense, derived from the intricate, self-reinforcing web of evidence from art, music, and computer science. The work's ultimate significance is located in its successful fusion of form and content. It presents an argument about emergent meaning that itself emerges from a masterfully woven braid of interconnected ideas, inviting the reader into the very strange loop it seeks to describe. The book functions simultaneously as a rigorous explanation, a persuasive philosophical essay, and a work of intellectual art, with its enduring contribution being the framing of consciousness as a beautiful, paradoxical, and ultimately solvable puzzle rooted in the deep logic of systems.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.